Hello and welcome to another edition of Takeaway Tuesday. We're in for a special treat today because Kim Madden, a trainer and a child forensic interview specialist with the National Children's Advocacy Center, is here with us today. And Kim and I are going to be talking about manipulation, what is more commonly known as grooming. Now, Kim comes to the NCAC with a wealth of knowledge. She has been a forensic interviewer for 25 years. All right, and so Kim has been interviewing children for a very great length of time. And one of the issues that we run into as we go out and when we're either working these cases, interviewing the children, working with our MDT partners, or just talking to people in the community that may not work in this field. And what we find is they don't truly understand what these kids experience or what they go through. And as Kim and I have talked and we visited about this whole grooming process as it's known in the literature, we've had discussions that the word grooming really doesn't adequately convey the experiences that these children have. And what would be a better word that you would want to use, Kim, and why?
Well, I think the word manipulation more accurately captures exactly what happens. As you and I have talked, grooming is a pro-social type of behavior. People go to the beauty salon for grooming, or maybe they're groomed to take on a position of a higher authority. But manipulation, I think, really speaks to, again, an accurate depiction of exactly what occurs between the child and the offender. Mm-hmm. And in addition to the child and the offender, what we found is that there is a parallel process going on, and that is where an offender is also manipulating the family, all for the goal of being able to isolate that child and engage in acts of sexual abuse.
So, in other words, instead of using the term grooming, we really should be using manipulation, because that better conveys the experience that children and families go through.
I believe it does.
And as for forensic interviewers, when we're conducting an interview with a child where there's maybe long-term or ongoing abuse by either someone in the family or someone outside of the family, how would we go about, or what would be some questions that we would ask to try to target these behaviors with a child?
The questions, I think we can target them at those specific stages. So, for example, if we're talking about victim selection, asking the child, tell me about meeting so-and-so, what was going on, and then thinking about maybe how the parent or caregiver was involved. Tell me about your mom meeting this person. Questions that target access establishment. So what were some of, tell me about the places or some of the things that you would be doing, or what were the ways that the offender got access to the child. And then the sort of the systematic, the rapport development. Again, what were some of the things that the offender maybe gave the child? What were some activities that they engaged in? What were ways that offender sought to establish rapport with that child?
So what you're saying is that there's just these different phases that an offender will go through, and one is that victim selection. And you had talked about that one of the things that we could ask the child in the interview was, what did you think about meeting so-and-so, or what was going through your mind, or what did you think about this individual when you first met? Are there other questions that you might ask trying to understand that victim selection process?
Well, I think if you can have the child talk about the context, and you maybe can illuminate what was going on that enabled this offenders to select this child of all people. So tell me about meeting so-and-so. Well, it was at basketball practice. So talk to me about what were the first conversations, and maybe you can get into what are some conversations that this person had with other people, or what were other people saying about this offender. I think those are helpful ways, again, to have the child recall those initial conversations. Because I think the thing to remember is that to outside of observers, and especially to the child, they may have felt like very innocent conversations to start with. But when you look at the trajectory of that offense, it all really makes sense. You can see that clear, again, systematic engagement that offender did with that child.